Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope we're all doing very, very well. Now, what have we got for you today? If you saw my last video, which was the magazine edition, where we covered every topic under the sun, contrails, Trump, everything, and the kitchen sink. I did happen to mention that I was receiving another mystery movie canvas art from, yes, you know him, you love him, the Super Channel contributor, Steve 007 Smith, the guy that sends the things you see on the walls, around me, and behind me, and over there. And as you know, regular viewers, Steve will not just send me the canvas, he sends me clues beforehand, and I have to try to work out what the movie is in question. And we've had a lot of fun with this over the years because Kilt Mansion is festooned. The only thing holding the ramparts and battlements up are the proliferation of movie canvas artwork from Steve. So thanks, you're keeping a roof above my head. Now, the clues this time. I'm going to be quite quick getting through this now because I'll tell you right now, I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't know. Normally me and Steve being the same sort of age and into the same sort of movies, and the very fact that you watch this channel means that most of you guys and gals and ghouls are into the same sort of movies as well. So when he gives me these clues, I can kind of latch on very quickly and come up with a few ideas, or maybe I know right away what it is. But I would say in the last sort of 6 months or so, maybe a bit longer, he's learned to be a bit more, I don't know, throw me a curveball, just be a bit more sort of obscure and obtuse and lead me down certain garden paths, you know, or down rabbit holes. And there was a rabbit hole with this one, I'll be honest. Now, I normally get them. And if I don't get it right, I've normally mentioned the film in question in my possible usual suspects. You know, I've brought that up as well and then dismissed it and then gone, oh! But there has been times where he's completely thrown me, completely. From dusk till dawn, there was one. I never saw that one coming, never saw it coming. And there's been others, but mostly I'm on the ball. And I've got my reputation is at stake here. And I'll be painfully, brutally honest, I don't know what's in that box. And I'm going to read you out the clues, and I've written them down the way that he sent them to me, because this is something that I got wrong. Because I mentioned these clues just the way I remembered them and the way I've been thinking about them in the previous video, so that you guys could have a little play along and be, you know, detectives yourselves and try to sleuth it out. These are the clues, and I possibly took this the wrong way. So anyway, a comedic take on classic horror. A comedic take on classic horror. Fan art, not official poster. Okay. Portrait style. So portrait, so it's like that. It's not going to be landscape. Well, I think. This film is regarded as a classic. The cast never really got the recognition they deserved for their performances. Well, if you're a genre fan, especially of horror movies, that's a very widely, hugely encompassing sort of banner, because we love these movies and we know that they're classics. We hail them as masterpieces in many cases. But the general critical fraternity, you know, the movie critics and the reviewers out there and Joe Public don't really care. Didn't really see much. I was just there for the gore, you know, I was there for the atmosphere, you know, but didn't really notice the nuances of certain performances and that. So, but we as massive fans, we recognise these things and cherish them. And in my case, I applaud them and promote them endlessly. Right, straight away, he sent me those, right? Before, the package is here, folks, the package is here. Unmolested, unopened, and it arrived yesterday. That's a crucial thing there, it arrived yesterday. Now, are we getting a bit of a lens flare creeping down? We are. A bit of a J.J. Abrams creeping into the frame. Also, if it seems a little bit hazy, my daughter has just made some fantastic toasted cheese, butties, sarnies, sandwiches, toasties, in the frying pan with the oil, the Olivia Berro, you know, Filippo Berrio oil. I forgot that myself there. And oh, it was gorgeous. But it did fill the room with smoke. But it kind of adds a kind of outdoorsy barbecue kind of ambience, I think. Anyway, and I can still smell it, and my God, I wish she'd made me one, because I'm getting really hungry now. Right, so, a comedic take on classic horror. Straight away, I got back to it. I went, oh, and I gave a few veiled clues in my response. I mentioned googly eyes because I was thinking of Marty Feldman from the film Young Frankenstein. Mel Brooks' classic 70s take on the original Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein with Gene Wilder and Terry Garr and Peter Boyle as the monster and Marty Feldman and Madeline Kahn. It's a sensational movie. It's not only riotously funny with that typical old school Mel Brooks style. We're talking Blazing Saddles and the producers here, you know, not the things he kind of went on to do afterwards, but it's fantastic and it's lovingly paying homage to those classic horror movies from Universal. I thought of that, and then I thought, hang on, what other horror comedy is there which is rightly regaled as a classic with standout performances? It's Carry On Screaming from the Carry On stable. You know, all the Carry On crew there, including Jim Dale, and you've got Oddbod and Oddbod Jr. marching around. You've got Fenella Fielding smoking away as this hugely glamorous, super uber sexy, vampish creation. It is just amazing. It's funny as all hell, and it's also scary. You've got John Pertwee, who grows Oddbod Jr., who are their big lumbering hairy brutes that carry out all the kidnappings. You know the film anyway. Frightened Tonight, yes, that one. And John Pertwee, soon to be Doctor Who, has this finger that they found, this rather hairy phallic thing. It's a finger, and he puts it onto his little electrodes, and he grows before his very frightened eyes. Suddenly he grows and a big hairy caveman creature who's the smaller version of the big lumbering brute called Oddbod. Oddbod, yeah, Oddbod, not Oddjob. That's James Bond, isn't it? And but when you watch that scene, it's genuinely frightening. It is. So I thought they're classic movies, and I would have done the unboxing of this last night, but after a big long dog walk, which you know culminated in the pub, I came back home and my son said, "Don't forget Liverpool are playing." Oh shit, yeah, I forgot about that. So we watched them. It was an appallingly boring bloody 0-0. Jesus, no. Anyway. So, but by the time that finished, he said, "Oh, you're doing your video now?" I went, "Oh, well, no, it's too late now." So he said, "What is it? Is it that canvas that's arrived?" And I went, yeah, because obviously I wasn't even around when it arrived. One of them took it in, and he said, "You've got to guess what it is." I said, yeah. And I said, "I think I know what it is. It's Young Frankenstein or Carry On Screaming." And he goes, "Well, what are the clues?" This is my son taking an interest in it, which he does sometimes, like. And we're on a bit of a big bonding thing now because of John Wick. Both me and him are massive fans of John Wick, and John Wick Chapter 4 came out, and we've now seen it a good several times. And we love it even more now each time. But anyway, so what are the clues? So I went, okay, it's a comedic take on classic horror. Fan art, not official poster. Portrait style. This film is regarded as a classic. So I'm currently my own writing now. The cast never really got the recognition they deserved for their performances. And he went, well, why do you think it's Carry On Screaming or Young Frankenstein? My son knows his films. And I went, well, because it's a horror comedy, isn't it? And it's fan art based on a horror comedy. A horror comedy on a classic, horror story, horror film. I went, it doesn't say that. I said, it does say that. He said, it doesn't. He said, look, read it again. It's a comedic take on classic horror. I went, yeah, it's a no. He said, no, the art is going to be a comedic take on a classic horror film. And I went, wow. So I reread it. It was on my phone. I reread it again. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I've read that. I've read that as being, it's a horror comedy movie. A comedic movie take on a classic horror film. Well, to say that, the lid got blown off and was like, oh God, well that could be absolutely anything. Anything. It could be, well, I wrote a little list. It could be, for example, Jaws. It could be American Werewolf. It could be Frankenstein from 1931. All the many various offshoots. It could be Dawn of the Dead. It could be The Thing. It could be The Wolfman, the original Wolfman now. It could be The Omen. It could be The Fly. I mean Cronenberg's remake of The Fly. And I mean Philip Kaufman's remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And them. But then, when you look at it, they're all classics. But if you go like, right, they're regarded as a classic. Yeah, they all are. The cast never really got the recognition they deserve for their performances. Well, that eliminates Jaws, because everyone loves the sensational performances of all the characters in that, including all the extras who actually live in Martha's Vineyard, who appear in the movie, which is Martha's Vineyard, obviously, is Amity Island. People do revere the performances in An American Werewolf. David Norton, Jenny Agutter, John Woodvine, especially Brian Glover and David Schofield. We love them all, Dawn of the Dead, performance-wise, they're all fantastic. Oh, did they get the recognition they deserved? Well, I'd say that they did, because the fan circuit, the conventions, they get festooned with people, not because the film is just a cult classic zombie movie, but because you totally embrace and empathize with their characters, their four main characters. And even though they weren't particularly renowned, but they trod the boards in New York and Pittsburgh, and George Romero knew them, and they do the job exceptionally well. The Thing, people always say that, well, there were critics at the time for John Carpenter's remake of The Thing, said at the time that they didn't recognise anyone, any individual. There was 12 main cast members, and they just blurred into one. You had the super hairy one, which was Kurt Russell, revamping his Snake Plissken. And I remember all these reviews, because I saw The Thing when it first came out back in 1992, and I did revere it as a masterpiece. You guys know it's my favourite movie of all time. And but they did absolutely sort of demonise the film. It was too gory, and it wasn't exciting, and you just couldn't empathise with any of these characters, which I think is complete travesty, because they're all individual characters, and they are all earmarked, and they stamp their individuality upon the movie itself. The Wolfman, 1941's Wolfman, from George Wagner, which, as everyone knows, is, I regard it as one of the greatest. It's a dreamlike fable, but Lon Chaney Jr., or Creighton Chaney, as he was christened, son of Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces, he gets lambasted for his acting in so many other movies, and yet the guy won many awards and accolades for playing, what's his name, Lenny in Of Mice and Men. And he made the character of Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, the tragic, forlorn character of the Wolfman, cursed with lycanthropy. And he made that character his own. It's his favourite character in all the movies he ever made. And he put his heart and soul into it. The fact that he was a heavy drinker, that doth remind me. By the way, Steve, cheers, mate. You've thrown me a massive wobbler on this one, because I've got no fucking idea. But cheers, mate. Cheers, everybody. If you've got one, raise it now. But Chaney was a massive drinker, and could be quite belligerent to certain people, especially Evelyn Anker's who plays the love interest in the Wolfman. If you watch, I've said this on so many times now, but it never ceases to really amuse me. If you watch the finale where he's the Wolfman for the final night, and he's going to be clubbed to death by his own diminutive father, played by Claude Rains, with the silver-headed cane. The silver-headed cane, which, oh, I wish it was here right now, which I have a fantastic exact silver wolf-headed cane, a prop made, which Steve 007 Smith found someone in America who could make that prop, because he knew it's the prop I most wanted from any movie. I just wanted that. It's just a beautiful bit of kit, and it usually is around me. Wherever I go, it's normally there, except now, can't believe it. But he sent me that. But Claude Rains, as the senior Talbot, clubs his own son to death with him. It's silver-headed, kills werewolves, and but then the Wolfman transforms back into his son, and it's all a tragedy there. But if you watch that sequence, because Evelyn Ankers is out there on the moors, and stupidly, and he goes for it, and he flings it around. If you look at that, she's really getting tossed about, and they didn't get along, and he was going for it. There was his chance. Oh, he could have said, well, you know, through Jack P. Pierce's makeup, I couldn't really see clearly, and had those big fairy paws on, and the ground mist obscured much as well. No, he's having a go. You know, she would have had bloody shockwaves and concussion throughout her body. But I think it's a great performance. But it is maligned by many people. I put The Omen down, but you gotta scotch that, because The Omen, classic masterpiece horror movie, regarded as a classic. But I don't think anyone does knock the performances. I think the performances were uniformly recognised right from the way I go. Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, Patrick Troughton, another Doctor Who actually, and oh God, what's her name? Billy Whitelaw as Mrs. Blaylock. Oh my God, they're all arch performances. And little Stephen, oh I forgot the little lad's name now, who played Damien. Even he's great. I mean, when he turns around at the end with that demonic smile, you know, Mum and Dad, not quite Mum and Dad. Mum was a jackal, Father was Satan, you know, and but his unwitting step parents, his human sort of harbingers have been killed, and he's there holding hands with the president of the US, and he just turns around and looks at us through the camera. Harvey Stevens, his name is, and it just does. He just looks at the poor little lad, and you're like, oh God, you know, maybe it's all wrong. It's not his fault, you know. And then you get that little grin. It's sensational. So everybody acts their little demonic socks off in that movie, and I think it's recognised. But because my son threw me this sort of curveball, like, no, you're not thinking this through, right? And I believe him. I think I have got this the wrong way around. I'll read you it all again. A comedic take on classic horror. It's not a comedy film. The artwork is a comedic take on a classic horror movie. I think that's what he's getting at. Fan art, not official poster. Portrait style. This film is regarded as a classic. Again, you know, that opens up a huge universe of movies, you know. So, you know, but Steve knows me and knows what I like, so he's not going to send something which he knows I don't like. It'll never be something that I've not mentioned before. It's never going to be something I haven't got a clue about. Well, apart from the clues that he sends. It's always going to be something that he knows I'm going to appreciate. But I was going like, so, a comedic take. So what are they going to be, caricatures? Is it going to be... I've seen caricatures of Frankenstein, and I've seen some of the Wolfman. I've seen Jaws, especially. There's a lot of Jaws stuff, like. But he said you've got one. He said you've actually got a poster, which is just a blue tacked up poster down the end, right down by the portcullis, and of the Thing. And there's all the cast are there and all that, and which I got ages ago. But I've got other jokey sort of things as well, but not very elaborate. they're kind of just taking the piss, really. I don't even put them on the walls because they're not respectful enough of the actual source material. But anyway, so I slept on this after the match and him dropping that bombshell. No, you've been reading that wrong. You've misinterpreted it. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, maybe I have. Well, I threw out Carry On Screaming and Young Frankenstein completely. Although, if it's Carry On Screaming or Young Frankenstein in there, then I will be victorious. And I'll be frying tonight. Or I'll be taking a canvas off one of the pins in the walls and putting this one up there. That's what I'll be doing tonight. But I then slept on it. Again, regular viewers know that when these things happen, and if I don't do the video on the day it arrives and I end up sleeping on it, I'm not a good sleeper. I do tend to suffer from a wee bit of insomnia. And although in this spooky place, there's a thing about waking up at exactly 3:34 in the morning, which has happened a lot. And I'm going through that at the moment as well. So we watched the match, we had a supper drink, they had tea, I had whiskey, and we retired, and I was awake, bloody 3:34, and so I started thinking, oh God, yeah, the canvas art, and I was still going through this horror comedies thing. Could it be House? William Katz's performance in House is actually pretty good, because even though it's broadly comedic and slightly outrageous, there's a moment when he's writing his memoirs about Vietnam where he starts crying because he remembers, people dying around him and the real trauma. And I thought, God, and that marks, that's a good actor. William Katz's a good actor, And so I started going off on these tangents, and I started reeling it back in. It's not a horror comedy. It's a comedic take on a classic horror movie. Well, that was it. I was awake till fucking dawn, thinking of, oh God, I'm going through every movie, every horror, sci-fi monster, crazy Grand Guignol, classic Universal Hammer movie I could think of. But I struggled to think of a film. Well, there's many films where, as I said before, where the performances don't seem to be regarded as being great performances because it's a genre movie, and all these highfalutin assholes who think they're critics always sneer down on genre movies. There's plenty that don't, admittedly, but there's many, many more that do. And so I thought, well, let's look at my little list again. American Werewolf. I think they're great performances, but do critics really regard them as three-dimensional characters? Because there's bicker banter and there's comedic one-liners and absurd scenarios and situations. But David Woodvine is superb. Brian Glover is superb. Frankenstein, Colin Clive. Well, it's a very theatrical performance. I'm actually, I don't think it's American, and it cannot be Jaws because those performances are stellar. Body Snatchers, the Philip Kaufman '78 remake. Donald Sutherland, who's outstanding. Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright. I've just thought of another movie, regarded as a classic. The actors didn't get the recognition they deserve for their performances. Alien. I never wrote that down. Alien. I'm playing Chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers at the moment. I don't know why, I just put it on. Alien. Massive success. Regarded as a classic, a masterpiece. Did the actors get the recognition they deserved? Sigourney Weaver, certainly got a career out of it. I think John Hurt was hailed. Ian Holm was certainly hailed. No, it's not that then, is it? It's not that. No, and the likes of John Hurt and Ian Holm were already well-established actors, stage and screen. Oh, God. What else was I looking at there? I don't know. I honestly don't know. So I'm going to have to open the box and just see what it is, you know. I don't know what it is, folks. Steve, I don't know. You've actually got me. I've said this before. Oh, I don't know what it is. But I've actually had a few ideas. And if I've not nailed it, I'll go for this. Then I've mentioned it in the sort of run-up. I so want to say Young Frankenstein, because it gives me a chance to really go on in length about that. I need to cover Young Frankenstein and Carry On Screaming. I have said this so many times now. All right. Ski and do. Yeah, I've had to tape up the sheath because it's split. The trusty ski and do. You wee Scottish dagger, you dirk that lives down the side of your sock or your boot. Now, here we go. I'll not show the address. Here it is. It's all sealed. Inside, folks who don't know the score, the canvas artwork will be against and cellophaned in against a cardboard backing piece. But it'll be so that you can't, even when I open it, you won't be able to see what the canvas artwork is until you've slit the cellophane and taken the whole thing out, because it's canvas against the cardboard. I know the score because they're always like this. So, what are we going to do? We're going to stick with Chud. Well, I'll tell you what. Tell you what we'll do. Tell you what we're going to do. Oh, you're joking. Bear with me, folks. I'm trying to find something which, you know, I cling to hopes that it may be. Right, let's have a look. Matron. Oh, I'm defo gonna cover this movie. I am massively certain that that is not in this box right now. But anyway, let's get to it. It's all nicely sealed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slit the cellophane and I'm going to erase it. Now we said it's portrait style, so that's upright. So normally they mostly are upright, but if it's a landscape one, it could still come up. It could still come out upside down. I've done that so many times. We're going to leave that on. Just leave that on. I haven't got the score to Young Frankenstein, so I can't put that on. Alright. Tell you what we'll do. That's gone to something else. That was Giorgio Moroder. I need some backing music. I'm going to have to put something on. Oh, God. And I've still got to pick something, haven't I? Am I saying Carry On Screaming? I don't know. Oh, fuck it. Let's put... Because I don't know. I'm going to put... There's a werewolf thing here somewhere. Come on now. Werewolf. We're going to play Elmer Bernstein's score for An American Werewolf in London. Who's there, as it happens. Now folks, this could be upside down. I apologise. You ready? You ready? Oh, I haven't said, have I? my choices. Them, James, God, yeah, them, James Arness and James Whitmore. I've covered it, done a commentary track for it as well. Awesome movie. Fuck it. Go for The Wolfman. 1941, The Wolfman. Some comedic take on it. Because I don't fucking know. Okay. Well, first of all, that's not portrait. That's landscape. That's landscape. Look at that. Look at that. Now, that is sensational. It is. It's The Thing. I did mention The Thing, didn't I? Now, I've got this. Did I mention before? My son said you've actually got a comedic taking the words from a classic movie. You've got The Thing down the end, and it's all like, well, it's that. If you look at this, they're all sort of caricatures. They're all instantly identifiable, recognisable. They're in the kennel, and you've got the scene I don't like, because you've got the husky dogs in distress, and King Kurt, as McCready, has to shotgun them to death because they're all being absorbed and assimilated by that bastard there. And look at the dogs. But I'll tell you what. I've only got like a card of this. It's just like and it's only blue tacked onto the wall. That is infinitely better. The colours on that. It looks almost 3D, doesn't it? That looks almost 3D. Look at that bastard there as well. Look at him. And the poor dogs. They're a comedic take on classic horror. Yeah. It's only comedic in that you've got like these sort of amusingly frightened faces on the huskies, and you've got like these sort of caricatures of all the main characters, well, all the characters, shall we say, apart from the Swedish pilots. They're not Swedish, Mac, they're Norwegian, you know. Look at that. Oh, hang on a second. I was going to put the score to The Thing on, but here's my favourite track from American Werewolf. One of Jack's decomposing visitations to David to warn him. It's so skin-pricklingly eerie. But I'm going to put The Thing on. Just want to hear this first. What did I say it was going to be? The Wolfman. Well, you got me, Steve. You got me. But I did mention this. I did mention it. It is me trying to claw something back for myself. But if I'd done this last night, I'd have gone probably, well, would they have gone Carry On Screaming or Young Frankenstein? I probably would have gone, because my first thought was Young Frankenstein. I would have ummed and ahed and tossed and turned between the two and probably gone to the beginning and gone with Young Frankenstein. Listen to that. Right, let's get on to The Thing. I'm going to show you this properly. And Steve, mate, it's absolutely amazing. I love it to bits. It is my favourite movie of all time. I always have to do this thing where I go like, well, and there's always Escape from New York, because the two really do vie for top slot. Both by John Carpenter, my favourite film director of all time. The best soundtracks ever, Escape from New York and The Thing. Ennio Morricone for The Thing. I was going to say Snake Plissken then. John Carpenter himself for Escape from New York. My favourite character of all time is Snake Plissken. but my favourite movie, because this is Carpenter's masterpiece. A director that massively broke ground as an independent, low-budget filmmaker, tackling genre, sci-fi with Dark Star, urban western with Assault on Precinct 13, and Halloween, you know, Stalk and Slash. And then did Escape from New York, did The Fog, a ghostly yarn, the sort of zombie maritime marauders, covered it a lot. And then Escape from New York, anti-authoritarian, anti-establishment, anti-hero aplenty with Snake Plissken. A joy to behold, a wonder of low-budget special effects and really outrageous ideas, all of which seem to be coming to fruition. Terrorist attack on New York-ish. Well, we know what I think about that. But Twin Towers used, planes crashing into New York, a president, you know, who's massively hated, and World War III on the brink. New York City becomes a cesspit of humanity and a maximum security penitentiary. But you've got to turn to an anti-hero, bad guy, because only he can do the job. We do this all the time. We do this all the time. We turn to people who we know can achieve the job, and they're not the nicest of people. Factoid there. And then he went on to The Thing. Remaking. It was always touted as a remake of the Howard Hawks' Christian Nyby 1951 classic, The Thing from Another World, which was a take on John W. Campbell's 1934, was it, or 1938 novella, Who Goes There, aka Frozen Hell. We won't go into that expanded version, but the original novella is a classic. Most of the same characters are in Carpenter's movie, because Carpenter didn't remake the 1951 Howard Hawks' Christian Nyby film, because theirs was James Arness, from them as well, playing an 8-foot-tall humanoid carrot, a super intelligent vegetable, who was also a vampire from outer space, who crash lands in the North Pole, not the Antarctic, where this is set, and begins to start decimating the crew of US Air Forcemen and scientists at this beleaguered outpost, and trying to propagate his own race by draining blood out of his victims and using seed pods from under it, from his own flesh, his own vegetable flesh, to create more of his own kind. It's a fantastic film. But Carpenter's film is based on the original novel, and it was a screenplay by Bill Lancaster, son of Burt Lancaster, and it's a complex, highly intelligent script for an all-male cast, all male except for the voice of Adrienne Barbeau, who's the voice of the chess computer that Kurt Russell, King Kurt, is playing against as our helicopter pilot, and again, hero, anti-hero really, MacReady battles against. And the whole film is a chess game of who's who, of deception, who's hiding behind this, what was that, a decoy sort of move there, who got to the blood, you know, and all this, you know, who got to the keys, everything. It's a complete who done it, what done it, when done it, and who's who. That's what the movie is, and it's an absolute unparalleled masterpiece. Carpenter was never better. His directorial verve, his directorial command over a large cast, an ensemble cast, which he uses exceptionally well, is second to none. His use of the sets and the location work, his use of helicopters and evoking the environment that they're in, was just, something just fell down, but unparalleled. The magisterial use of revolutionary special effects by Rob Bottin, all the transformations, the metamorphosis, everything, the icky, ooey, gooky autopsies, and the various decimations of human flesh and the contortions thereof for the manifestations of the thing are just the stuff of legend. And that's our first scene. It's a great sequence because it actually lets you know very early on. You've had the Norwegian camp, they've gone out McCready and Dr. Copper, Richard Dysart, have gone out to investigate the Norwegian camp. You know all this. I know. I'm just rehashing certain elements. And it's creepy as all hell. Frozen hell, in fact. Because whatever happened to that camp, you now know as the viewer is about to happen to the American camp as well. And it's outstanding. But then, of course, the thing is a husky dog. Where's my husky dog? You know, she's intruded on so many videos, and like the one time I absolutely need her now to just come and sit here and go, yes, I am the thing. And she's not here. She's out there somewhere. But as is my version of this. In fact, I'll go prove that to you now. Should we go for a wander? Let's go for a wander. Don't worry, we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about that. Looking for the whiskey now. Should we go on a quick tour? Cheers, y'all. Cheers, Steve. That's better than what I've got out there. That's much better. That's replacing that. Trust me. Don't worry about the fact I already had it. Don't you worry about that in the least. Let's just show you that again. Right? Everyone's there. All the crew of Outpost 31 are there. Bunch of dogs, all in terror, and a thing erupting in the kennels. And it's very... What you don't get from the poster I've got out there, which is this, is that three-dimensional effect and the sort of shadowy atmospherics that you've got there. That's quite... It's more vivid, it's bolder, it's more suspenseful. Even though it's a caricature of faces, it's quite a serious image, to be honest. But just want to take a bit of a tour. Come with me. We might meet people, who knows. More canvases. Michael Myers, Barbarella, Mad Max. Oh look, lots of Thing stuff. Zombie flesh eaters. Let's go here. Scanners, Exterminator, Rogue Blue Tack, The Evil Dead. A little shrine to Escape from New York again. Let's move down here slightly. Don't know if you can see in there, it's kind of dark, but lots more canvases there. Lots more canvases up here, and they go all the way up as well. And along the landings there, the first landing, then the next landing. But if you come along here, well, you'll meet Mrs. Kilt-Man, who's trying to get out of the shot. Hey! But if you come down here, what do you see? Now, I think we can all agree that version there, that's just a print. That is nothing compared to what Steve just sent us. Oh, I'll just show you Adrienne Barbeau. And why not? And another American werewolf there. But there's the thing again. So, folks, I hope you can see some of that at least. But, and there's more. And then on every floor as well. The canvases that Steve sends are liberally arranged throughout the house. And the great thing about these canvases, as I always say, and Steve knows because he collects them as well, is that I always say for a portrait one, you know, so it's like that. It's one tack, boosh. You can just put them up like that, and you know, when you would get a new one, and you can move, or you want to change the look of an area, you just take one down and put another one up there. So you're changing the artwork all the time. For a landscape one, I tend to put two in. So you know, there's certain areas where the landscape ones will go in. That's a point. You did say portraits down, didn't you? And it's landscape. Ah, it's all right. I know. Oh, did you mean caricature? Because these are caricatures, aren't they? If you look, I mean, look at their faces. They do look. They all look exactly like the person. Let's have a look. Let's go through everybody. There's Thomas G. Waits as Windows. Windows! You know. Yeah. Giles, what if we're wrong about him? Wilford Brimley, the great Wilford Brimley, now deceased, as Blair, you know. Watch Clark, or watch him close, you hear me? fantastic. He's been drugged up. He's put him out in the shack, in the work shed. They don't want him anywhere near the rest of them because he's a thing. They don't quite know. We know. Or he's just dangerous anyway because there's a thing on the loose. I've always said he was a thing from quite early on. Always. Let's get the ring lights out of the way. Richard Dysart as Dr. Copper. They're not Swedish, man. They're Norwegian. Of course, gets his arms severed in the big vagina dentata of Charles Hallahan as Norris when he has his heart attack, and then they're trying to put the defibrillator on him, and crunch, and they get a double amputee for a split second. I really think they could have employed that guy for a bit of a longer shot, and they put a mask of Richard Dysart on the guy, who's like a double amputee from the elbows, and he's like waggling his stumps in the air with fake blood coming out and all that. And but you only see it for literally a nanosecond. But at least it shows, the lengths that they went to, not only in prosthetic transformations and changing heads and elongating things and latex and prosthetics and all that. And very flammable things they are too, as well, as they discovered during that sequence itself, where Charles Hallahan as Norris's head pulls itself off. That sounds wrong. Luckily, all the gooey bits on the inside are green. Had they been red, the sensors would really have come down on that. So all the stringy gelatin bits, which are the sinew stretching as the head comes off and then slides down the other side of the table, and then gooeyly, horribly, the tongue comes out and goes around a chair leg, and it oozes itself across the floor, and then spider legs and two big eyes on stalks come out of it, and it scuttles off. But yeah, that sequence, all the stuff went on fire, and the first take was ruined because the whole thing was flammable, and the flammable gases accumulated on the set. So when they finally, they had one of these little fire burner rods. They go like the fires, so the fire would be seen in front of the camera. So it would be there if the effects were taking place where I am right now. There'd be this fire burner because they put the flamethrower on the erupting corpse on the table after he gets his arms chomped. Another tentacled monstrosity comes out of the big gaping chest chasm, and so they quickly burns that with the flamethrower. So, but to mask the effect of the head coming off and the flames there, it's a fire bar. So the head would be turning itself off here, and the fire bar would be there. But when the action, oops, all these gases have built up, toxic and highly flammable. Fuck off! Boom! The whole thing went up, and I think Rob Bottin says it best, when he talks about this sequence. It's like you go, cut! And all the fire crew from the film set come in and put the flames out. And Carpenter goes, Mr. Bottin, what the hell happened there? And he's like, I did warn you about this. Who else have we got there? So there's Charles Hallahan there as Norris. And it's Norris who we've just described transforming and destroying this guy, and his head sprouting off, and taking legs and legging it. There's Keith David as Childs, who is at loggerheads with King Kurt McCready, R.J. McCready, helicopter pilot, ex-Vietnam pilot, hates the cold but drinks too much and the pay is good, Oh God. Now, I get bottles of J&B whiskey occasionally. Sadly, I don't have one at the moment. J&B is just a blend. People always say to me, oh, you always going about J&B, and I've seen it in the films you talk about. Oh yeah, it's always in American movies from the 80s, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And in The Thing, Kurt Russell, look. I mean, you can see how they've done the faces. They've accentuated all. They've all got crazy noses. Look at that one especially. They've all got mad noses. They've all got drinkers' noses. bulbous and swollen. People always say to me like, well, you know, that's got to be a prestigious drink, J&B. J&B is a rusty nails. It's not Jim Beam. People make that mistake as well. J&B is not Jim Beam bourbon. It's J and B, and it is a Scottish whiskey blend. But it's in a lot of movies. It became a cult thing during the 80s, primarily because of this guy, and he's always got one alongside him. And they become the Molotov cocktails, the bottles that they use to blow up the camp and like destroy the thing. You know, we can't let it freeze again. Maybe it's gonna warm things up around here, you know. Anyway, but I drink it. As I say, it's Rusty Nails. It's a workman's. It's like any blended whiskey, any blended Scotch. They're not great. I'm drinking one there, which is Grouse, but Grouse is slightly higher level. But there's many really piss poor ones. But they are just blends, and J&B is just a blend. But the thing about in pubs in the UK, it seems to have took on this sort of cult appeal. So if you find a pub that's got J&B, it's on the optics, oh, there's J&B there, or it's just on the shelf behind and they put the little optic on it and all that. They go like, oh, it's like £6. What? It's just a fucking blend. It's not a single malt. What are you talking about? It's got this prestige to it, and the people behind the bar don't even know why it's got that prestige. But I do. It's because of these bloody movies. So there's an influence of The Thing again, you know. So here we go. Well, there's McCready, obviously. You know. Let's try and think of what's the best quote for him. No, cheating bitch. Yeah. And there's Gary, Donald Moffat, outstanding. Oh, did we give a quote for him? For the Childs? Let's think of a quote for him. I think now. I just can't believe in his voodoo bullshit. So how's this motherfucker wake up after thousands of years? And how can he look like a dog? Brilliant. Quote for McCready. Shit. There's so many. I can't think. Yeah. Fuck you too. No, cheating bitch. There you go. So Donald Moffat, who's great as Gary. Gary's the commander. He's the station commander of Outpost 31. But his authority gets wrestled from him. They even take the piss right from the word go when the Norwegian helicopter comes in after circling the camp, shooting at a dog, you know, who they foolishly take in. And if they understood Norwegian, they'd know right from the word go that dog is not a dog, it's a thing. Because that's what Larry Chernoff, who plays the Norwegian, it's like, he's spouting Norwegian off and he's going, it's not a dog, it's a thing, you know, and he's shooting. And the other guy's blown himself and the helicopter up. What a clumsy bastard, you know. But then big snow gloves and all that, and grenades fly out your hand. He's going, it! Boom! And then Gary breaks the glass, and with his magnum, bang, blows this guy away. So then you get like David Clennon as Palmer, Pothead Palmer, who says like, I was wondering when El Capitan would get a chance to use his pop gun. They don't have any sort of respect for Gary. And Gary will lose respect throughout the entire bloody story, repeatedly. But he'll be one of the last few when they realise, obviously. And his quote has to be, you know it, you know. I know you gentlemen have been through a lot. But when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch. And Carpenter wisely keeps the camera on his face after he said it. You see a reaction of the other guys that, oh shit, you know, he's doing the blood test. He's the guy we totally thought was the thing. And he's not, he's human. And they kind of go, oh. And they look awkward. And it's brilliant. But he cuts back to after his rant, and he just sort of leans back. And he keeps on staring, but he's calming down at the same time because he knows they're going to have to let me go now. And it's victory for him. It's a lovely moment. If you cut that wrong, it would have had either too much impact or not enough impact. The way Carpenter cuts it, it's absolutely spot on. Nailed it. It's perfection. Who have we got next? Oh, poor little TK Carter as Knowles. Knowles, who we'd seen, of course, in Southern Comfort, getting impaled on a bunch of redneck Cajun trap conspired punji stakes. He puts his foot on top. He gets all the National Guardsmen who've incurred the wrath of the Cajuns. He's in many movies. He's wonderful. And he is, of course, Knowles, roller skating around. He's the cook, you know. And but he's also, he doesn't give too much of a fuck either. But he's one of the last few to go. You don't see him die either. He hears something. He hears this guy getting done in by that guy. That guy puts his hand into his face and then walks off, dragging him by his face, his mutated face, full of glacial-looking, icky tendrils. And he hears it, and he walks off and looks, you know, and then just walks off into the shadows, never to be seen again. In the original cut of the movie, or the original screenplay of the movie, he was meant to, the thing was going to come out of like a big crate and grab him and drag him in, and it didn't work out. So they didn't use it. It was called the Jack in the Box. Didn't work out. In the novelization, he actually does a runner on his skates, and he remembers being in like New York and being chased by another guy. Was it New York? Was it LA? Can't quite remember now. But in the novelization, he remembers being chased by another gang, another street gang, and the things coming after him, and he gets himself into a lavatory and shuts the door, and these spikes come through the door, get him like. So what's a quote for him then? Maybe we're at war with Norway, he says, as they've got the two bodies of the Norwegians on autopsy tables. Or like, which one are you? Oh, which one of you disgusting men's been leaving his drawers in the kitchen sink, kitchen bin? Oh, I've misquoted him there. Good style. Doesn't matter. Richard Massey as Clark. Oh, I love Clark. Clark looks after the dogs. And they all distrust Clark because Clark got close to the dog. As Blair says to him early on, like, how long were you alone with that dog? I don't know. An hour, maybe two. I don't know. What the hell are you looking at me like that for? Maybe not. It's nothing at all. You know, suspicions are now pointed at Clark. And I always feel dreadfully sorry for him. He's trying to prove himself, like, and he's a big guy with they've all got the big beards on. Well, most of them got the big beards on. And when Blair's gone crazy and he's smashed up the helicopters and the snowcat and all that, and he's now smashing up the radio centre and all of that, and he's got he smashed up the helicopters and he's killed the rest of the dogs, and like Clark's like, what? And they watch Clark go off, and Clark, it's another. I have to look away again. There's a husky hanging over something with an axe, you know, through its neck, and they're like, oh, you bastard, Blair, you bastard! That thing didn't want to be a dog. No dog can make it 2,000 miles across the to the ocean, or whatever the hell the line is. I keep forgetting everything now, don't I? That thing wanted to be us. So poor Clark, you know, maligned. David Clennon as Palmer, Pothead Palmer. When Norris's head scuttles off and he turns around and sees it, you gotta be fucking kidding. You know, and McCready turns around and burns the head as well. You want to see more of that head, don't you? You want to see more of the spider head doing its thing, scuttling about, maybe jumping out from the ceiling on someone. You want these things, you don't get them, but it doesn't matter because the film is still a masterpiece in what it does show you. But in that sequence, and I've said this so many times, and nobody else ever picks up on it. No one I've seen, and I've got every book on this movie. I've got every fucking thing to do with The Thing, and no one's ever picked up on it. MacReady burns, this monstrosity, and the two big sort of horrible gelatinous, fists punch through the ceiling, and it goes in that horrible squeaky. It drags itself up. And everyone thinks it gets through the ceiling, a bit of it gets away. It doesn't, because you do see the bit that got up there, it drops down on fire. And then you all stand there like they're in shock. MacReady's done the shotgun thing, killed the dogs, and he's burnt this thing, and they've gone in very quickly with the fire extinguishers. It's only burnt for a second, and they're very quick in there. And then it's stunned reverie as they're all pretty much there like that. But MacReady's at the back, and only Palmer turns around. This is a spine-tingling moment. Once you've seen the film, I urge you all to watch the film again, as I always do, because why not? And by Norman there, and why not? Because, in fact, it's almost scored to this sort of music as well. He turns around and looks at him who has just decimated a thing, and he turns around and looks with this strange look on his face. People don't pick up on it at all. It's like, I've always said, he's the first guy. When Jed, the wolf dog hybrid, the Malamute, which my dog is a dead ringer for, comes down the corridor, acting beautifully. Should I go in that door? No. Oh. Walk down a bit more. Looks in another doorway, and we just see a shadow on the wall. The dog goes in, and the shadow turns around and looks at the dog coming in. Now, you guys will know this because I've said it before anyway. But you guys know anyway. But the shadow on the wall, it's none of these guys. It's none of these actors at all. None of them. It's actually Dick Warlock, who was Kurt Russell's stunt double in many movies. Doubled him a lot on Escape from New York and in a lot of other movies. And he also played The Shape, Michael Myers, in Halloween 2. It's his shadow on the wall. And Carpenter said, well, I did that on purpose so that you wouldn't be able to recognise any of them. But even that said, it looks like only two characters look like that. And that is Charlie Hallahan and David Clennon, because they both had sort of curly hair, and Dick Warlock's hair was kind of like, it was bushy and curly. So he inadvertently they got someone who wasn't meant to look like anybody in the cast, but he actually looks in a shadow silhouette like two of them, and those two are things. So, but I've always said that he was first to be assimilated and was lurking in the background. And that sequence there, where MacReady burns out the kennel, and he turns around and looks at him, that completely nails it. He looks around and it's like, right, you're quick. You don't stand there in shock. You are proactive, and you put my kind down immediately. I am going to have to watch out for you. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And when you watch it and you know how the story transpires, that's the moment you go, And MacReady even looks at him and kind of regards him, but you don't know what MacReady's thinking. I have done a video specifically on who got assimilated first and how it all, the timeline and how it all transpired, and the beauty of the thing is that none of us know. It's all fan conjecture, because if even the director and the screenwriter don't know who got assimilated when and where, because that's all part of the mystery, and it still hangs together and makes you watch it again and again and again and again to try and pick up on things, and you always do. There's always something new to see in this movie. It's perfection. It's Agatha Christie perfection, because you're never going to work it out for yourself, because the clues are dropped and they take you down different avenues, but you can't connect all the dots it isn't structured that way. It gives you just enough to create the mystery, but not enough to clear all the little quizzes and questions up. So who we got next? It's Peter. Who is that? It's Peter Maloney as Bennings. Bennings, of course. You know, he's an irate. He's a bit of a carbuncle, isn't he? There's always a ginger in the place, and he's the ginger. And but he's great, you know. And he gets shot by that Norwegian. A bullet zips through his thigh, and you see him getting stitched up. You know, and like Richard Dysart, it's like the cop was going like, you know, like, whoa, 3 stitches, barely grazed you. And he has a running thing, of course, with Knowles playing his ghetto blaster in the kitchen. Again, controversy over the songs that we used. We know all this. And it should be Stevie Wonder. One Shane Don't Make No Prison and all that, like. And he's recuperating in his room, and it's like on the intercom, Knowles, will you turn that crap down? I got shot today. Yeah, mama, papa, brother, whatever Knowles says. And he skates on his roller skates over to the ghetto blaster, and just doesn't change the volume at all. Just goes, fuck it, and off he skates again, like to do beef stroganoff for tea. But of course, you've got like the great thing with Windows. Where's Windows again? You know, and the keys. You know, they get all the burnt remains, and they're gonna burn them all. And Windows goes, "Who got the keys?" You know, and they go, "Get them from Gary." The whole thing about the keys. Who got to the blood? Who had the keys? Gary takes the keys from Dr. Copper regularly, and so Windows has to go and get the keys from Gary. Get them from Gary, says Bennings. And then he comes back with his big snow goggles on, like big afro haired Windows. Michael Thomas G. Waits just sees Bennings in the corner being assimilated, sitting there topless, covered in pink and orangey goo. And it looks, and there's a tentacle going up his nose, and he's like just sitting there like that. And the image is horrible, but it's the reaction that you have to it. It's like you've just stumbled onto some kind of, you know, sex scene. Like, oh, didn't really want to disturb you guys while you're doing that, because it's just so icky and perverse. It's deliberate, of course, and it bloody well works. But you hear him drop the keys. You hear the mystery about who got to the keys. The keys get dropped at that moment. You don't see the keys get dropped, but you hear Windows drop. He's gone to get the keys, and he goes, "Holy shit!" And like the keys drop from his hand, and you hear them chink on the floor, and then he runs off to go and meet Fuchs and McCready. It's Bennings. And of course, Bennings, when you get there, everything's all gone, but it's a smashed window, and Bennings is running out into the snow and ice, and he's got like these big freakishly tentacled long arms and fingers, and then he does that huge, unearthly, almost Invasion of the Body Snatchers style shriek. By the way, the husky dog has just appeared. Let's get it. Let's get it. Roxy! Roxy! Follow me. Let's go into the kennels. Right. It's a husky dog. There she is. It's the thing. Hello, love. And I'm going to do that thing now, but I always open the conservatory door for her, because I always assume she wants to go out, and I might be wrong, but anyway. It is what it is. Right. But so the dog can hopefully go out and assimilate something out there in the garden. It's raining as well at the moment. It's not the best of days. But anyway, so let's get back to this. What are we up to now? Let's have a little look. So yeah, Bennings does that unearthly howl and shriek and scream, and he pushed the big, you know, can of kerosene over, and then McCready ignites him, goes up, and you got the horrible thing with McGarry. You know, my God, what was happening to him? You know, that was one of those things out there trying to imitate him. You know, like, I don't know what you're saying. I've known Bennings for 10 years. He's my friend. And like, McCready just goes like, gotta burn the rest of them. Oh, that's wonderful. And who we got down here? I mean, if you look, you've actually got the tentacled fingers and hands. They've all got something, which obviously McCready's got the flamethrower and dynamite. There's probably a bottle of J&B there as well. You've got the axe with the child's defibrillator with Dr. Copper. Well, he's just thinking about things. He's either thinking about, you know, how do we stop the thing, or as a thing, how do I get out of here? And you've got this poor guy who gets clobbered by him, and that's why he's got the bandage around his head. You've got, you know, who's been tossing their filthy drawers in the kitchen trash can, you know, he's holding him up there, like, obviously he's smoking a joint. But there you've got Joel Polis as Fuchs, the unfortunately named Fuchs, Fuchs. You know, it's a bit dangerously close, isn't it? And he's another scientist boffin. But he's the one that will tell McCready, you know, I've got Blair's notes, you know, he said there's still cellular activity in his burnt remains. They're not dead yet. So is Blair cracking up or what? You know, but it's that, you know, they're not dead yet. We've got to burn them for a lot longer. That thing in the kettle in this sequence, that it goes and the bit drops down from the ceiling. But they all rush in with the fire extinguishers very, very quickly. And they put the flames out very quickly as well. Genius. And of course, he has another mysterious death. He's alone in a lab. Someone cuts the power, the lights all go out, and he's making notes. And then as he gets a little candle and he starts walking around through the darkness and the gloom. Very haunted house moment. A bit like the Norwegian camp, very haunted. And in the gloom, something with a John Carpenter stinger sound effect goes past in the doorway. And then next thing you see him, he's putting a parka on and he's got a flare. And he's like trying to see who that was. And then, you know, anyone see Fuchs? You know, right, we've got to find Fuchs. And they all split up to go and find Fuchs. And Windows, McCready and Knowles have gone out and checked everywhere, and as they're walking back into the compound, OUTPOST 31, they see the burnt remains of somebody in the snow, shriveled up, burned, and like, is it Fuchs? Yeah, and because they've got his glasses, his burnt up glasses there as well. So, you know, why would it burn him? Says Knowles. You know, and they find a flare. Flare. Maybe he tried to burn it before it got to him. You know. You're never going to know. The beauty of it, you're never going to know. That's a rundown of everybody there. Look at that. Now, on my version, there's someone's name. There is, it's here. The artist, I presume, has monikered it there. But that's the same on the other one. But I don't know who that is. Someone out there will tell me. People do tell me, you know, who's done the artwork for these things, because I don't know. But it looks like A something 15. So was it? The initial is A, and it was done in 2015. I've had that, the one I showed you, since round about 2015, 16, certainly. But what mine doesn't have down there, well, mine now does have it, because this is going to replace that. John Carpenter's The Thing. Just as Morricone's main theme comes in. There's a storm hitting us in 6 hours. We're going to find out who's who. The most reluctant of heroes just wants to go to his shack and get drunk. I don't blame him. But he doesn't like to lose. You know, he can't help himself. He's got to fight back. But he doesn't really give two shits about any of the rest of them. He's a loner. Doesn't really care, you know. But again, like Snake Plissken, who's a loner, he ends up trying to save the day. And inadvertently, he will draw along people. This is Escape from New York. He'll draw other people along, all of whom will die. But he does have a conscience. We did get you out, he says to the president, Donald Pleasance, and not Donald Trump, but Donald Pleasance, and we did get you out. A lot of people died in the process. I just wonder how you felt about it. Well, this nation appreciates their sacrifice. I'm on air in 2 minutes. And Pleasant's just like, oh, fuck you. Like, off he goes and consigns the world to what should be World War III, because he's got the real tape, but all that. But this guy doesn't really care. The pay's good, hates the cold, but drinks to forget it all. And occasionally I'll fly you guys wherever you need to go. But basically I want to just sit and get pissed and play chess. But he can't even play chess for long because the cheating bitch, But look at that. The colours are more resplendent. The detail is much greater than on that print. And the 3D effect, I think you can appreciate that. The 3D effect is actually really, really, really good. That's wonderful. Steve, don't go thinking, oh, we already had it. This has superseded that massively, massively. It's fantastic. I love it. I love it to bits. So folks, there you go. I got it wrong. I did get it wrong, didn't I? I did get it wrong, yeah. I mentioned the thing though, and but I if it wasn't for my son, I would have kept on with probably have gone with Young Frankenstein. But it pays to pay attention to what the clues and the way you've written them. I just assumed it was a horror comedy. I've now given him loads of fuel for future ones because this dickhead doesn't read my clues properly. He misinterprets them. Yeah, I do. Cheers, everyone. Cheers, 007. Cheers, Mark. Mark's really taking it up, huh? He knows what he's doing. Would you get in a helicopter with a guy that drinks whiskey like it's going out of fashion at the arsehole of the world? Ain't doing it. Folks, hope you appreciate that. I'm looking at it now, and that's infinitely better than the picture that I had down by the portcullis down there. And even though they're all caricatures, they're all massively identifiable, and it does have there's a far more serious tone to it than you think. It does capture that moment. It's fantastic. I've just noticed something as well, which I didn't even notice on my own poster down there, is that Fuchs is holding the flare. There he is. He's got the flare out there as well, So they're all doing something which is synonymous with that character, Folks, I have been over Shabby Kilt-Man. In the meantime, in this ever frosted, blood testing in between time, please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and just be yourselves. Don't be any other thing. Just be yourselves. And I am going to catch you all. Haters. So Clark was human, which makes you a murderer, don't it? Oops.